Gershon, Rav Shlita, Rabbonim, Gershon, Yisrael Kedusha. I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's a zechus godel, to speak at this all-important asifa, an asifa of Kedusha. It's an asifa of Kedusha, leman Kedusha. Rashi, on the opening posuk of Parshas Kedushim, Dabir el kol adas b'nei Yisrael v'amartu aleim kedushim tiu ki kodesh ani Hashem elokeichem. So Rashi melamid shene'emro parsha zu b'hakel. This parsha was said, had to be said, to kol adas b'nei Yisrael. It was said b'hakel. It was said to all of Klal Yisrael together. Mipnei shereiv gufei Torah teluyim bo. Because most of the essentials of Torah, most of the fundamentals of Torah are in Parshas Kedushim. And Rish V'Rishay, the very first of these Gufei Torah, is Kedushim Tiu. This mitzvah is the Yesod HaYesodus, the great fundamental which the Torah tells us has to be spoken about, Bahakil. It needs an olam to come together. Kol adas b'nei Yisrael. We need to gather together, Yidden zusammen, to be mis'ira, to be mischazik. Ne'emro parsha zu Bahakil. And as the Rav said, Ashreinu, that we live in a city where people understand that Kedushim Tiu is the parsha of Reiv Gufei Torah. Akdomus Milin, before we delve into an understanding of what mitzvahs Kedusha is, I'd just like to share a few words, fascinating words of the Medrash Rabbi on these words, Kedushim Tiu. It states in Medrash at the end of an Arichus, but the Medrash finishes and says, Nosato Kedusha leYisrael le'olam, shene'ema Kedushim Tiu. The Medrash says a dovo niflo. Kedushim Tiu is not just a tzivui, it's that too. Certainly it's a tzivui, it's a commandment. But it's also a havtocha. It's a promise that Kedushim Tiu. The Eitz Yosef says there on the Medrash, Midalui koma heyu Kedushim. If this is a mitzvah, the Torah should say heyu Kedushim, like heyu nechonim l'shloishes yomim. It doesn't say heyu Kedushim, it says Kedushim Tiu. Is Dr. Eitz Yosef mashma shehu loshin besura shenoisein lohem HaKedusha. Kedusha is a gift. It's a gift that we have, and it's a gift that we have forever. It's a gift that can't be taken away. Nosato Kedusha leYisrael le'olam shene'ema Kedushim Tiu. The Sfas Emes writes on this Medrash, he says, Ki Kedushim Tiu hi gezeras hakosu v'havtocha, ki le'olam, forever, eternally, nimtzo Kedusha temuna b'nefoshes b'nei Yisrael. Kedusha will always be there. It's always there, temuna, hidden within the nefoshes of Klal Yisrael as a whole and within the nefesh of every single Yid. Nosato Kedusha leYisrael le'olam. And what that means is, of course, we need to be mischazik Of course, Keseda, we need chizuk be'inyonei Kedusha. But every time we speak about Kedusha, we're really talking about, as the Rav said, who we are essentially. And we're trying to return to our truest identity, Yisrael Kedushim He. We're not looking to be something different. We're not looking for a new idea, for a new persona. We're looking to be able to express with every part of our lives who we really are. We're able to live, to be able to live that havtocha of Kedushim Tiyu. To live that matona of Nosato Kedusha Yisrael Le'olam. So what really is Kedusha? Again, the Rav mentioned, we talk about it, and as the Rav said so beautifully, we have a deeper understanding than words of what Kedusha is. We know what it is. But is there a way, perhaps, to define it a little, to understand it better? So it's very interesting. The word Kedusha is explained, is interpreted two different ways that seemingly, lich'ira, seem to be a contradiction. Kedusha is translated often as being separate. Kedushim Tiyu, the Sifra says, Prushim Tiyu. You should be removed, you should be separate. That's Kedusha. Rashi goes with the Sifra, have a Prushim min ha'aroyes u'min ha'aveira. So Kedusha means to be moved on, to be removed, to be separated. But then, the same word Kedusha is also used to define being connected. It's a lotion of yichud, of dedicating oneself, of designating oneself to someone or something. Like, of course, classically in Kiddushay Isha, Harei at mekudeshesli. We all know the Tosfos in Kiddushin. Based on the base, Tosfos says, mekudeshesli is meyuchedesli umezumenesli. When I say to a woman, you're mekudeshesli, I'm saying you are completely mine. You're connected to me. You're dedicated to me. And that seems to be the very opposite of Purushim. So what is Kedusha? Which one is it? Is it Purushim? Or is it Meyuchedes? And of course, the answer is Poshet. Kedusha is a hiskashrus, a connection to someone or something which is mechayev, precious from everything else. The definition of Kedusha is that I'm connected. And because I'm connected, because of that, I'm disconnected from everyone else, from everything else. The ikka of Kedusha, the essence of Kedusha, is chibur, is connection. But the teitzah is, the result of every act of Kedusha is Purushim Tiyu. In order to be Kedushim, in order to have connection, we have to be Purushim. Harei at mekudeshes li. You're mekudeshes li, meyuchedes li, mezumenes li, and memela you're asura al kol ha'olam. And even the tiniest diversion from that, even just a small connection, chas v'sholom, to someone else, if you're looking at someone else, you're talking to someone else, you're enjoying someone else, that's a disloyalty that eats away at everything Kiddushin is. It's not even two sides of the same coin. It's the same thing. Kedusha means connection that comes as a result of me and you and no one else. And b'diyuk, exactly that way, is Kedusha. The ultimate Kedusha, the Kedushim Tiyu. Leman tizkeru v'asisem es kol mitzvosei v'yisem kedushim le'elokeichem. We say this pasuk every day. The Torah tells us so clearly that kol ha-Torah kula, all kiyum mitzvahs, is in order to bring to v'yisem kedushim le'elokeichem. And that kedusha is mechayev. It happens only through Purushim Tiyu. We're Kedushim to Hashem. You can't say the Taich, the translation of Kedusha as Purushim, you can't say to something. You can't be, if Mekudeshes means Porush, you can't be Mekudeshes li. You can't be Kedushim le'elokeichem. Kedushim le'elokeichem means you're connected, but because you're Kedushim le'elokeichem, you must be Purushim. The Ramban writes, at the end of his piece on Kedushim Tiyu, he says, V'tam ha'kosov she'oma ki kodosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. The Torah finishes, ki kodosh ani Hashem Elokeichem loima, she'anachnu nizke ledovko boi biyoseinu kedushim. It's to say, this is what Kedusha is. It's a relationship. Ki kodosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. I'm coming towards you and you come towards me. And the Ramban says, V'hineze ke'inyan hadibu horishin ba'aseres hadibris. He says, it's an amazing line of Ramban, I think that is often missed. He says, Kedushim Tiyu is Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. As it states in Ramban. If you want to define Kedushim Tiyu, it's Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. It's that kesher. We're counting towards Matan Torah, that great day of Yoim Chasunosoi v'Yoim Simchas Liboy. Rashi says, it's amazing really, was steht in Rashi, just from learning Chumash Rashi. On the pasuk, Vayoytzei Moshe Sa'om Likraso Elokim in Amachna, the Torah describes how Moshe took Klal Yisrael, Likrasa Elokim zog Rashi, Magid, Sha'ashchina Yotzo Likrosom Kechosim Hayoytze Likras Kalo. No one else could ever say such words. Chazal tell us, it's a Chazal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kviyochel came towards us, Kechosim Hayoytze Likras Kalo. That's the yesod of Kol HaTorah Kula. Torah is a relationship, it's a kesher. We're a chosen and a kala. And the Purushim Tiyu is a teitzor from this relationship niflo that we have. So of course, we're not looking at anyone else. Because to do that would be disloyal. To do that would be a pagam in the kesher. It's really difficult to overstate how important this perspective is. Because too often Kedusha is presented as a list of negatives. There's a very long list of what we're not allowed to do, and where we're not allowed to go, and what we're not allowed to watch, and where we're not allowed to look, and what we mustn't read, and on and on and on. and our youth, befrat. We all know from our children, from our Talmidim and our Talmidis, they're often very unresponsive to our drushes on Inyonei Kedusha. Because to them it just seems like, oh, here they go again. There's something else that we mustn't do. They're more no's, they're more negatives. Again, the Rabbonim are at it. I once said this, that somebody once said to me, a Yid once said to me, he said, tell me, what did Rabbonim used to talk about before the internet? It comes over as if, no chamo. It's all just restricting us, it's all just holding us back. Over the years I've had many opportunities to speak to yeshiva bochrim, sometimes to teenage girls about these inyonim, and I've always wanted to try and turn this around. And I came up with a moshel. I apologize if anyone's heard this in a different setting, but it belongs here. Moshel lemoad dovadoima. Imagine you go into a kala, b'yoyim chuposo. She's getting married today, and you go into her and she's crying. She's sobbing, like not a bit. Every kala cries, but she's really crying. She's tzibrochen. So you say to her, well, what's the matter? Why are you crying? Let me make you better. So she says, what do you mean? I'm getting married today. So you'll say to her, well, the understanding is that getting married is a kind of a happy thing. Well, why are you crying? So she says, no, she says, don't you understand? She says, until now, I'm muteres l'chol ha'olam kuloi. I could marry anyone. And there's how many? Even if I want to marry a Elachiyid, there's hundreds of thousands of them. And I've been dreaming, and any of them could be mine. And now in an hour I'm going to stand under the chuppah, I'm going to be Mekabeles Kiddushin, and in that one moment I'm going to become Asura al kol ha'olam kulei. All for this one shmerel who I hardly even know. So of course I'm crying. Lomo lo ezke. So we all understand that something's wrong. It's time to call for help. If a color's talking that way, something's really wrong. Every color is excited and delighted to get married to her chosen to the exclusion of everyone else. She wants to become Asura al kol ha'olam kulei. Not only that, she's not even thinking about it. It doesn't cross her mind. There's no one else in her world. And so I tried always to explain to the bochrim that we have a relationship. We're the color, the Eibishter is the chosen hayotze likras color. If you want to know what, you're crying because you can't do that stuff. Those are the others. Those are all the other men. You don't want the other men because you want this kesher. And so, of course, we need Keseda to look for practical eitzes. There's no question about that. But all the practical eitzes will not work if we don't have this understanding that Torah and Yiddishkeit is this kesher, this deep and unending kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that kol inyonoi, the whole sugya of Kedushim Tiyu, is to keep that kesher intact, to be a loyal color to our chosen. And all the asifas that are important, and all the takonos that are made that are important, they're all on top of that. They're all after that. But we need to understand this, and maybe even more so, we need to communicate it to our youth who are growing up in this world, as the Rav described. We need to explain to them, you're not giving up a thing, ever. There's nothing you're giving away. You just have the most precious, most enjoyable, most rewarding, most delightful relationship. Not just in Olam Haba, in Olam Hazeh. And that relationship requires that. Hareat mekudeshes li, meyuchedes li, umezumenes li. And the Mele, amasura al kol ha'olam kuli. So that's the perspective that we have to learn, we have to study, and be'emes, once we hear it, we see it everywhere. The Torah says it again and again. That's what the Torah is saying. V'yisam kedushim lelikechem. The whole v'lo yisosuru achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem. Every time we get together, every asifa, every article that's written, every shmuz that's given, is quoting this v'lo yisosuru achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem asher atem zoinim achareim. But the next pasuk tells us why. Leman tizkaru v'asisem es kol mitzvosei v'yisam kedoshim leilekechem, because you're a chosn and kala. I want to just take a few more minutes to talk about the nisyonos that we're facing. The Rav said so beautifully that it's a new world, and we're having to contend with nisyonos that truly are new. But of course, the Yetzer Hara himself is not new. The Yetzer Hara is referred to in Keheles as Melech Zokein Uksel. He's old. One of his titles is that he's old. He's always been here. But in every generation he comes in a new form. In order to be successful, though, we have to understand the form, we have to know the enemy. And so, how do we define this? What actually happened? What's his new trick? We have to know exactly what his new trick is so that we can know how to approach it, how to contest it. So really there are a number of nakudas, there are a number of points that are new in the Yetzer Hara's modern day dance. But I want to leave time for Rabbi Yaakov, which is more important. I want to say, though, choose one, just the first. You know, there's a Gemara in Maseches Brachos, a famous Gemara, that talks about when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was about to be nifter, and his Talmidim surrounded him. Very touching Gemara. The Gemara says, Ukeshachol Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai nichnasu Talmidov levakre, his Talmidim came in to visit him. It's a long Gemara. The Gemara describes the conversation that took place. Mitas Choya of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. At the end of the conversation, the Gemara says, Omru loi Rabbeinu barchenu. They said to him, Rebbe, give us a bracha. They knew this was it. So they asked Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai for his last bracha, Rabbeinu barchenu. So he said, Om Elohem yehirotzi, shetehei moire shomayim, aleichem kemoire boso v'dom. He said, Yirotzi and halavai, that you should have Yirash Shomayim like Moira Bosa V'dom. Like you should be fearful of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as you are of people. So they said to him, the Talmidim said, Omer Lei Talmido Ad Kan, is that all? And I guess before at that moment they were expecting some Hoiche Madrege. And he said to them, fear Hashem the way you feel people. So they said, Ad Kan, Om Elohem, he said, Velavai, he said, Halavai, Teidu, he says, Araya, Kisha Odom Oiver Avera, Oime Shelo Yirani Odom. When a person is over an Avera, what's he saying? Hope no one catches me. When he hears the door open, jumps. So, Yiras Boss of the Dom, for most of us, is more than Yiras Shemaim. Rabbi, he said, that's the bracha. Your Moira Shemaim should be Kamoira Boss of the Dom. What the Sultan has been matzliach in doing, Rabbi say, over the last 10, 20 years, that he's taken away the entire Shelo Yerani Odom. That fear of Shelo Yerani Odom is just gone. I remember when we were Bochrim, which is not that long ago, it's getting longer, but Bochrim also had a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is a Melech Zokin Uksil, but you wanted to look at something, you had to go somewhere, you had to buy it, you had to hide it, you had to, not me of course, but I'll pick this up. It was a whole business, it was a whole geschäft. When somebody was nichshal, he wanted to do an avera, he was very busy with the Shelo Yerani Odom. That's gone. And it's frightening. It's a frightening place to be. It's frightening that we, and even more frightening that our children are all really 5 minutes away, whether they have devices or not, they're 5 minutes away from being able to be over kol haveir shebetorah without a worry of Shelo Yerani Odom. But it's frightening, but also inspiring. It's inspiring because it's offering us, and this of course is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is presenting us with this Nisayon. It's offering us an opportunity of Kiddush Shem Shamayim that we didn't have until now. Our parents, and certainly our Zidas, they didn't have these Nisyonos. They had the Yetzer Hara, they had Taivas, they had their struggles, but they always had the Shelo Yerani Odom. But we're being tried really every single day with the Nisayon of Yosef HaTzadik. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, in Perek Hey, in the Perek of Kiddush Hashem. We always talk about Kiddush Hashem as being for the Goyim, which perhaps it is too, but it's certainly not the main Kiddush Hashem. The main Kiddush Hashem is Beinenu. And the Rambam writes, he says, Kol ha-poirish me-avera, he says, somebody who is poirish, he moves away from an avera. Loi mipnei dovo ba'olam, for no reason. Loi pachad v'loi yero, he's not frightened, v'loi levakish kovod. Elo mipnei ha-boirei baruch hu, only because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kimnias Yosef HaTzadik atzmoi me'eshes Rabbi. The way Yosef HaTzadik held back me'eshes Rabbi. Hareze mekadesh Hashem. He says, that's Kiddush Hashem. And as the Rav said, Yidden not doing this. No, Yid told me, Balabos told me, he works all day, he works with computers. He told me he got himself a Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Somid, and he's put it on his computer. And all the Shivisi Hashem had to be in the shul. Now the Shivisi Hashem has to be by your computer. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Mika Amcha Yisrael. It's a Kiddush Hashem that we didn't have till this Nisayon came. Here you've got a Yid who can, he's sitting all day and he's got it all there. Kol Tuv Eretz Mitzrayim. And he's got Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Somid. And al-af that there's no shmir of Shelo Yerani Odom. We have Bochrim L'Roiv. Many Bochrim. The Olim don't know this. But there are many Bochrim. We're always hearing about all the Tzoros. Many Bochrim who shomer themselves. I was zeicher to be mashkiach for 18 years. I had Keseda. At the beginning of Bein Hazmanim, Bochrim used to come in and make Kabbalahs. Often they used to give me money, that they would give me money, I should keep it, and they'd forfeit it if they fall. So for me it was a win-win. I'm joking. But And they came back. They came back. They came back again and again and again. Of course, people did fall. But so often Bochum came back. They were in homes where they had everything available. They could do anything, and they came back. They said they weren't nichshol. That's what the Eibush just presented us with. So a new matzav where there isn't a shmira in the world except the Yirah Shamayim, the Yosef HaTzadik. It's getting late, and I want to ask the Olam, please to remain till the end, otherwise I'll get into trouble. I'll just be Messiah with a beautiful short story I heard from a Magid, Yerushalayim. Sometimes, of course, we're nichshol in all of this. But we need to know that if chas v'shalom we're nichshol, if we do fall, then the avodah is even more chashuv. So apparently the story goes, during the siege of Yerushalayim in 1948, Yerushalayim was under siege and the Yidden was starving. There was no way of provisions getting in. It was like a year, maybe a little longer, when the Yidden lived through close to starvation. So there was a Rabbi, a Melamed. He had his Talmidim and he felt so bad for them. So he began a minhag. Every Rosh Chodesh, on Rosh Chodesh, his wife, they'd get together a few ingredients and she'd bake a small cake. No one had cake. And he would come Rosh Chodesh with a cake, with a sharp knife, and he would slice everyone a thin slice of cake. It was like the highlight of the month. Anyway, one Rosh Chodesh, he came in with a cake and he sliced the cake. He gave it out. And there was one boy, one yingler there. He took the cake and he found a napkin and he wrapped the cake in the napkin. So the Rabbi said, what's going on? He said, you know, I remember before this all began, I remember how much my father loved cake. He said, I'm keeping it for my father. So the Rabbi wasn't spoiled, you know, his father, little boy, he hasn't had cake a whole month. He said, no, I'm keeping it for my father. The Rabbi was moved to tears. Anyway, they sat down to learn, and it was recess. So during recess, the little boy went over and he opened up the napkin. He took out the piece of cake. He smelt it. He held it this way and that way. Eventually couldn't contain himself, and he made a bracha. He took a bite, and then quickly wrapped it up again. Say, take it home. Anyway, they carried on learning, and it was the middle of the day, lunchtime, and again he walked over and he opened up the cake. And again he couldn't contain himself, took another bite. And then, it was a long day in Yerushalayim, Echida. A bit later he took a third bite, then he said, that's it, I'm not touching this. And he wrapped it up, I'm taking it home, whatever was left of it. So at the end of the day, he ran home before he would eat any more. He ran in and he went over to his father. He said, Tata, here. He said, the Rabbi gave cake and I kept it for you. The father was so moved. He said, wow. He said, you kept your cake for me. And then he opened up the napkin and he saw the bites. And then he burst out crying. Because he said, when I saw the bites, then I realized how much you want this cake. And Alfalpi came. Nevertheless, you're giving it to me. So we've all taken bites. None of us are perfect. The fact that we've taken bites only makes the avodah ever more precious. We come to the Eibishter and we say, our children, and we say, we're going to be shomer. We're going to be more careful. We're going to live up to Kedusha to you. And the Eibishter looks and he sees, but you've taken bites and afal pikein. So ein lecha avodah gedola mizu. The Eibishter shall helfen. Mispal every day, shomer goy kodesh, shomer she'eris am kodesh. We're the she'eris am kodesh. We're the few that are left. The Eibishter shall helfen. B'schus this choshev asifa, b'schus all the chizukim, B'schus Yisrael Kedushim, who, as the Rav said, don't give up, aren't meyayesh, and are determined to live up to this havtocha of Kedushim Tiyu. The Eibush zal helfen that we should be zeicha to live lives of Kedusha, live lives of Kedushim Tiyu, live lives of Yisam Kedushim Lelikeichem. We should be zeicha be'ezer Hashem to have children who are Kedushim, B'nei Kedushim, Anshe Emes, Zera Kodesh, B'Hashem Dveikim.